Hello and welcome to the Dead Men Raiding Guide to Heroic Madness of Deathwing. This guide is primarily for DMR raiders who have not yet defeated this encounter. We met this encounter with 1 tank, 3 healers and 6 DPS. We actually got this kill over 2 months ago, but someone who shall not be named has been forgetting to fraps it ever since. As soon as the mutated corruption spawns, it is important to immediately turn and start DPS on it. In order to minimise crush damage, we have ranged DPS and healers stand in an arc on the claw side of the tentacle, and melee get to stand on the far side of the tentacle. We place the first corrupted parasite at the base of the tentacle. The lower its health when it finishes casting, the less AoE damage is done to the raid. When the corrupted parasite has gone, our DPS focus returns to the tentacle. Whilst your DPS have been busy with the corrupted parasite and the mutated corruption, your tank has taken a first impale, a bolt is due, and so is a second impale. When the bolt arrives, all ranged and melee DPS except the impale soaker run out of melee range and attack the bolt, remaining further away from the tentacle than the soaker. This positioning aspect is critical to avoid an impale hitting the wrong target. Use tricks or misdirects to get the bloods to the main tank so that he can tank them alongside the tentacle. Do not kill the bloods yet though, just focus on killing the tentacle. Once the tentacle is dead, the main tank can move the bloods into the yellow time zone and wait for the second corrupted parasite to spawn. As soon as it spawns, the MT drags the bloods on top of the parasite and we AoE everything together. Spellweave does huge damage here and will also hit Deathwing's arm if positioned correctly. Make sure prior to the encounter that each class knows which of their spells procs the most spellweave to ensure that they use that spell for the AoE. The second platform is a repeat of the first. Whilst the NPCs still kill the blistering tentacles for you, there is no reason to slow the DPS on the arm. We use a Shadow Priest to soak the second impale, although other classes with similar damage reduction abilities can also handle this role. When an impale target is selected, if nobody is in melee range, the tentacle will select the next closest target, your soaker. But the soaker must remain out of melee range, otherwise they get melee hits too. Hence those on the bolt must be further away from the tentacle than the soaker to avoid them becoming selected for the impale. Just before the impale cooldown expires, the main tank runs out of melee range. Melee will already have run out for the bolt, and everyone remains further away from the tentacle than the soaker. Immediately after the Shadow Priest is selected for impale, the main tank can run back into melee range and start tanking again. The Shadow Priest uses dispersion just prior to impale hitting to mitigate the damage. The second corrupted parasite we place immediately to the right of Deathwing's arm, whilst the raid remains at least 10 yards away to the left. It's at this point that Dead Men Raiding feel obligated to rewind to an earlier try and provide a health and safety advisory for other raiders. When working on the second platform, please remember to exit to the right and not to the left. Should you have any warriors in your raid, please ensure that they have correctly marked up their boots with L for left and R for right. Confusing left and right and leaping off the platform to the wrong side when you should have leapt to the right can sometimes lead to certain death and your voice breaking.
Oops. I went to the left side after that. Fuck! Shit! Really sorry. Shit.
Anyway, let's get back to the kill. On the third platform, the MT usually needs an external cooldown for the Impale, as their own mitigation abilities are not yet off cooldown. We use a pain suppression and rally cry, but other combinations will also work. On this and the fourth platform, you also need to limit your DPS on the arm, as you do not want to get to 70% too soon, otherwise you trigger blistering tentacles. We stop at about 85% and then wait for the next mutated corruption or parasite. Once the mutated corruption has been killed, it is again important to not DPS the arm too much. The arm will take a lot of damage anyway from spell weave when you AoE the parasite and bloods next to it, hence stopping at 85% and not closer to 70. Remember that on this and the fourth platform, blisterings now need single targeting when they spawn.
And 5, everyone out.
Stop DPS. Straight onto blisterings.
Platform 4 is a repeat of Platform 3, along with an instant bolt, so you will need to have prepared a spot by the arm to group up for raid walls and healing for when the bolt lands. We place a blue raid marker as a group up spot for this purpose. The only person not moving to blue is the second Impale Soaker, who remains static to ensure that they're closest to the mutated corruption, so that they get the Impale. As soon as the bolt lands, ranged DPS can attack it immediately, but melee have to ensure that the Impale has been cast on the Soaker before running in to assist with the bolt, otherwise they might be targeted for the Impale themselves.
Impale in 10.
When the bolt does
5,
land,
everyone out.
remember to use a combination of healer cooldowns and split up again quickly to avoid multiple crush damage. When you have defeated the first 4 platforms, you can return to the starting platform and Phase 2 will start. Phase 2's new ability is the Congealing Bloods, which spawn at 15%, 10% and 5%. These have to be killed before they reach Deathwing, as each one that reaches him will heal him for 1% of his total health. This makes the Congealing Bloods a DPS priority. Another change is Shrapnel, which hits for 400,000 in Heroic mode. Whilst Dream will keep everyone alive for a first Shrapnel, it has a 30-second cooldown, so would be unavailable for a second Shrapnel if one happened within 30 seconds. So you need to kill the fragments quickly so that they do not have time to cast a second Shrapnel. This makes the fragments a DPS priority as well. As you already know from the normal encounter, Terrors are also a DPS priority due to their stacking tetanus debuff. This provides you with 3 high priority DPS targets. A successful strategy is therefore very much about control and only allowing one type of ad at any one time, thus allowing you to focus your DPS on the ad that's alive. If you have multiple ad types alive at the same time, you'll wipe.
Straight to fragments now, please.
The Deathwing phase starts at 20%, and you should aim to bring him to 18 to 19% before the fragments spawn. When the fragments arrive, switch DPS to them immediately and kill them before they can cast a second Shrapnel. Now wait for the Terrors and single target them down. Once the Terrors are dead, you now switch your focus to Deathwing and bring him down to below 15% to trigger the first set of Congealing Bloods, which must immediately be slowed, AoE'd and killed before they reach Deathwing. Remember to use spells which proc the most spell weave here. We then stop DPS at 13 to 14% and wait for the next set of fragments. We stopped so high as we found that the bloods start spawning at nearer 16, 11 and 6% rather than the official 15, 10 and 5%. Weapons and trinket procs, pets, spell weave and accidental casts can easily knock off significant health from Deathwing, so we stop DPS early to ensure we do not trigger the bloods too early. When the fragments arrive, kill them quickly and again before the second cast of Shrapnel. When the Terrors spawn, we then use Heroism to burn them down quickly. You should now have a significant period of time, probably 40 seconds or so, until the next set of fragments. Use this time to burn through 2 sets of bloods. DPS the boss hard under the remainder of the heroism, and to below 10% to trigger the first Congealing Bloods. Kill those quickly, and push Deathwing lower to below 5%, and kill the next set of bloods. At this point the fight then becomes a simple DPS race. The boss will be on about 4% health, and the next wave of fragments will have just spawned. So remember to use Dream if you get Shrapnel, and try to kill Deathwing before the fragments finish their second Shrapnel cast. This final burn phase is made slightly easier because Blizzard can't count, so Deathwing dies at 1%, and then you get to argue over who gets the mount. Hopefully this video has enabled you to achieve your own Heroic Madness of Deathwing kill. If you enjoyed the guide and found it helpful, please do remember to like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Deadmen Raiding are currently doing a single night clearance of Heroic Dragon Soul to get mounts for each member of the raid group prior to the Mists of Pandaria expansion. So with all your free time, why not pop over to our Deadmen Walking gaming community forums, register, and then join us playing different games over the summer months. And we look forward to producing new videos in MOP where our guides will have added panda goodness.